Good afternoon, everybody. I know that press announced all of the folks that are behind us. This is the team of federal, state, local, private sector, not-for-profits that have for many, many years worked together to protect the citizens from threats that we are facing today. As everybody knows, we have a tropical storm that has been forming, the name of which is Karen. We are, as all of you can see, leaning forward. We have been working hard since yesterday and around the clock to make sure that our plans are in place and to take all the necessary precautions that we have learned are essential when we have any kind of storms coming in our way. We almost made it through the entire hurricane season without having a threat like this, but it is what it is, and we've been through this before, and I'm quite certain that everything is going to be okay. Nevertheless, our instructions are always to lean forward and to prepare for the worst and hope for the best. And our expectation is that we're going to be okay. We were just briefed by the National Weather Service in the EOC. As I said, we are under tropical storm watch. The track continues to show landfall Saturday between southeast Louisiana and the Florida Panhandle. We are going to begin to see some impact tomorrow and potentially throughout the weekend. The National Weather Service says that we should expect up to 5 inches of rain through Sunday. We should expect 25 to 35 mile per hour sustained winds with higher gusts at potentially 35 to 45 miles per hour for a short time. We have about 900 to 950 citizens that are outside of the levee protection system that is in Venetian Isles, Lake Catherine, Fort Pike, and Irish Bayou. Due to the tides, we expect to see somewhere between 1 and 3 feet of water potentially in that areas. We do not expect it to get in the homes, but we've seen this before. We also know that when there are heavy rains in the city, there are places that flood. People know where those are, so you just should be aware of that and be prepared for it. You always have to take the necessary precautions, and of course, the city of New Orleans is doing that. Later today, I will declare a state of emergency. This allows us the flexibility and the authority to make all necessary actions should things change quickly. Our Emergency Operations Center is going to be activated 24/7 starting this evening. Our communications office will run the Joint Information Center. We're coordinating with regional parish presidents and the Governor's Office of Homeland Security, which is with us today, and I spoke to Parish President John Young this morning, and I will continue to stay in communication with the other parish presidents in the regional area to make sure we coordinate our efforts as we always do. They have been spectacular partners to the city of New Orleans, and we will reciprocate. Yesterday, the Corps closed Lake Bourne surge barrier, barge gate, about 2 miles long, 26 feet high wall protecting New Orleans East and the lower Ninth Ward. That has been closed. The Surge and Water Board is with us today. All 24 drainage pump stations are 100% operational. We have the pumping capacity is 1 inch during the first hour and a half inch for every hour thereafter. Backup generators at the Surge and Water Board power plant are active. We will be monitoring water levels in the canal with the Corps of Engineers who is with us, and the levee boards have begun closing a number of floodgates already. All of our public safety units are fully staffed and prepared. Barricades are positioned and will be deployed in flooded areas as the need arises. 311 will operate extended hours. They will be open until midnight tonight, and starting at 6 o'clock tomorrow morning, they will be open 24/7 until the need is no longer there. All residents can get updated information, and they can report problems. You will be directed to the appropriate agency. The citizens are our eyes and our ears, so please call 311 unless it is an absolute emergency, and that is a 911 call. As it relates to public works, all of our crews are on standby for road repair and debris removal if necessary. Our catch basin trucks are out cleaning catch basins as we speak. All staff is on standby to install emergency stop lights and stop signs should the need arise. Park and parkways sanitation equipment is staged and ready to clear roadways if necessary. Sanitation will continue regular trash pickup this weekend, but will not traverse down streets with standing water. Residents should remove empty cans and carts from the sidewalks. That would be very helpful to us so that they don't blow away or cause damage. And, of course, in this area, we encourage all of our residents to use common sense. So let's get our garbage cans off the street. Let's clean our catch basins. Let's prepare, as you all know that you should. We are in communications with all of the hospitals and all of the nursing homes to make sure that all of their plans are activated. Homeless shelters will be adding extra bed capacity should the need arise. Our 17 capital construction project sites right now are being secured, and we encourage all private contractors to do the same. There's a lot of work going on in the city right now, as you can see, and we're asking all of the private contractors to secure their sites. We've certainly done that with our public sites as well. We are coordinating with tourism leaders to ensure the safety of our visitors. We think that everything should be okay, but again, we have to be vigilant. Several conventions will be here early next week. We don't expect that they will be interrupted, but we are in touch with all of the hotels and all of the airlines, and they're communicating with their customers. Of course, this weekend we have Gentilly Fest, Art for Art's Sake, Gretna Fest, the Tulane Game, another major event at the Sanger. We expect those to go on, but we're asking all of the folks that are putting on those events just to stay vigilant, be aware, stay in touch with your customers as the need arises. The airport is completely operational at this time, but again, is in constant communication with the airlines. We will typically decide if the winds get on a sustained level of about 40 miles an hour to begin to activate different plans. But as I said earlier, right now the anticipation is that we're not going to have to do that. But Iftikhar Ahmed is here to answer any questions that you might have. The RTA is operating as normal, and we do not anticipate any service interruptions at this time. The streetcar service will be replaced with buses once the winds get above 25 to 35 miles an hour. We don't expect that to happen, but if it does, everybody understands what the protocol is. And, of course, we're working closely with Entergy that will speak in just a minute. Again, citizens, you drive how successful these storms are by having a plan and being ready in the event that there are any outages. Clearing your gutters, your storm drains is very helpful. Securing your property outdoor, including loose furniture and debris. Citizens will be allowed to park on the neutral ground in the event that you have to, so move your car to higher ground if your neighborhood is prone to flooding. But do not park on the streetcar neutral ground. That would be a problem. So use common sense and be thoughtful about that. Don't park under trees and don't park on the roots of trees. There's plenty enough neutral ground space to accommodate everybody. I have personal experience with this. It's extensive. And so I can assure you that it really works. So let's just everybody, be considerate. We have posted a list of flood-prone streets on ready.nola.gov. Ready.nola.gov are where all the flood-prone streets are. Most people know where they are, but in the event that you're curious, you might want to go look, because if it rains a lot, those streets are going to flood, and you should know before that happens. Secure your property, of course, outdoor, including loose furniture, debris. If there's any standing water, do not drive in it. This happens all the time. Somebody drives in standing water, they get stuck. If there's standing water, please don't drive in it. Report standing water in the streets to 504-821-2222. 821-2222. NOPD will be aggressive in their enforcement. Here's another thing that you can do to help each other. If there's standing water, right, or if there's water, please don't drive to it. If you go over 5 miles an hour, we're going to stop you, and it's not going to be good. That's just not, everybody knows this. So we go through this every storm. People will drive through that. You'll ruin somebody else's property, you ruin somebody else's business. We're going to be very aggressive as it relates to that. So do not go over 5 miles an hour on streets with standing water. There'll be a fairly significant fine for that. We urge you, again, to check on your neighbors. Resilient cities are cities where people know each other and check on each other and help each other out. We would encourage you to do that. There's some dangers that are obvious, but, every year we like to repeat: driving and walking through standing water, going in or around canals, going under overpasses that have standing water, all not a good idea. Be careful of flying debris. Fallen trees or down power lines, if the wind gets high enough, can always be a hazard. Improper use of generators and candles if we lose power. All these kinds of things are the kinds of things that result in bad physical injury and, in some instances, death, that are just all avoidable. So we would ask that, and of course, curb your enthusiasm for swimming in the lake if the water gets really high, like we see all the time. And that gets to be a particular problem out in that area. And again, get your supplies ready and get a plan. Everybody here is battle tested. We've been through this a bunch of times. We don't want people to get overly anxious, but don't let your guard down either, and be ready. Sign up for email and text alerts. Visit ready.nola.gov. Follow us on social media at NOLA Ready. Of course, this is going to allow us to contact citizens, and it worked really, really well last year. So in summary, Tropical Storm Karen will have some impact on the city of New Orleans. We are taking all of our necessary precautions. We would urge you to do the same. Again, remain vigilant. We are confident that we have plans in place, and we feel very good about our ability to respond. But I can tell you that without fear of equivocation, in every storm, our ability to respond is completely dependent on your ability to be prepared and to have common sense and to help each other. And that is the way that we get through these things from year to year. So I thank you for your attention. We will have regular updates on an as-needed basis. And now I'd like to turn it over to Mr. Charles Rice, who is the President and CEO of Entergy New Orleans. Mr. Rice.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. As we've been through this before, we're prepared for possible thunderstorms, heavy rains, high winds from Tropical Storms Karen, and ready to restore power as outages occur. Right now, we have about over 1,000 people positioned in the area ready to respond, and we have an additional 300 travel teams ready to come into the area. We're keenly aware of damage from major storms have caused over the years. We have a continuous operation plan. We're continually training, and we have what we call Operation Storm Ready. Since Isaac, we've improved our storm operations based upon responses to not only Isaac but also previous storms and also our storm drills. We will assemble and organize our workforce to operate safely and quickly to restore service. We will keep you informed about our restoration progress throughout various channels. Depending on the amount of damage after the storm, it could take up to 3 days for our scouts to assess damage before we'll know how long it will take to restore everyone's power. But while we're assessing damage, we will begin to restore service when it's safe to do so. We invite you to monitor our progress or monitor the storm at Entergy.com. We also encourage you to sign up for text alerts. Visit the Entergy Storm Center. You can also follow us on Twitter.com/Entergy or Facebook.com/Entergy, or feel free to call 1-800-ENTERGY. And I'd just like to let everyone know that we have our own storm models that we use on a regular basis based upon our past experience, as well as what we see based upon our computer models. We will deploy assets as necessary. Thank you.
Thank you, Charles. We'll turn it. Deputy Mayor of Public Safety, Jerry Sneed.
Coordination between all departments and agencies is like it's supposed to be. It's going very, very well. As the mayor indicated, we're on our emergency operations center is on a partial activation. Will be full activation tonight, and we'll stay on as long as needed. I feel confident that the city is ready, prepared for any situation, and we ask our citizens to be as prepared as we are. Thank you.
Chief Howard.
The police department is on special alert and fully prepared to protect persons and property. What we will remind everyone is that, as for now, our 8 district stations will remain open and fully functional, and that, as the mayor alluded, driving through flood-prone area is not a good thing. We will be out aggressively enforcing that and issuing citations to those in violation.
Thank you. Tim?
As the mayor stated, the New Orleans Fire Department is fully staffed and prepared to respond to emergencies, fire, water, or hazardous materials. Our USAR team, our Urban Search and Rescue team, is on standby in case of an event that they're needed. The New Orleans Fire Department encourages residents to be especially safe when you're operating generators. Make sure they're outside in a well-ventilated area. Not only the danger due to fires, but also people being overcome by carbon monoxide causes dangers. And then anyone, if they're forced to use candles or lanterns, operate them safely. Never leave them unattended due to the risk of fire. The New Orleans Fire Department is prepared to respond. Thank you.
Thank you. Marcia St. Martin with the Surgeon Water Board.
The Surgeon Water Board of New Orleans is fully prepared with all assets relative to stormwater management, drainage, wastewater, as well as drinking water. We're in close coordination with our federal partners, U.S. Army Corps of Engineers, and there's no daylight between the Corps and the Surgeon Water Board. as it relates to operating the storm protection system and the surge barriers, as well as the interim flood control centers.
Thank you. Proceed. Colonel Richard Hanson, U.S. Corps of Engineers.
Thanks. Well, safety of the public is the top priority of the Army Corps of Engineers and this entire team. And this team has been training and communicating throughout this entire hurricane season to be ready for an event like this one. This team is battle tested. The storm risk reduction system is ready. It's even stronger than it was a year ago during Hurricane Isaac. We've executed a number of closures, gates, and some other structures that have early closure triggers, and we're prepared to execute additional closures if necessary, working with our local officials and the entire team. I want to stress that the operations that the Army Corps of Engineers performs to support emergency management, flood risk reduction, and navigation are not affected by the government shutdown and will continue during this entire event. And of course, I want to stress that all citizens need to remain informed and keep listening to their local officials. Thanks.
Thank you so much. Captain Pete Gauthier, U.S. Coast Guard.
Thank you, sir. The Coast Guard has been working very closely with the Army Corps of Engineers, the river pilots, the port authorities, and maritime industry to make sure that the Mississippi River and surrounding waterways are ready for this storm. And I've just gotten back from a helicopter overflight with the Levee Protection Authority senior members, and I can assure you that the final touches are being made in terms of the waterway, and we're absolutely going to be ready for this storm. I'd also like to say that the services that the U.S. Coast Guard provides as an active military component are going to be unaffected by the federal shutdown. The public safety services and the marine environmental protection and property protection services that we provide will continue unabated through the storm. And then finally, I'd like to remind everybody that it's time to get off the water. There's no need to be out in a tropical storm. So the Coast Guard may not be able to pick you up during the course of this storm, and neither will other public safety agencies. So get off the water now. Thank you.
I also had an opportunity to speak to all of the council members last night. I've been in touch with Council President Jackie Clarkson, Councilmember James Gray, Latoya Cantrell with us, and Kristen Gisleson-Palmer. And I'm going to ask Kristen to speak for the council as well. They've been great partners throughout.
Great. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. You know, there's no city better prepared than this, and you can see that. The council is also in full support of this administration. We are working very closely to ensure the safety of our citizens. But at the end of the day, it's also about personal responsibility. And so we urge you to please pay attention to the reports. NOLA.ready.gov is very important, 311. And after you take care of your property, your family, please also look out for your neighbors. You know, we have a lot of elderly folks out there that may need help, physically disabled, and really there's no better people that do this than us. So again, thank you. We're at the full support, and the council will remain ready.
Thank you. Just to follow, just a couple of brief comments, and then we'll open it up for questions. In the last 2 days, I've had the opportunity to speak to the Secretary of Housing and Urban Development, Sean Donovan. I've also yesterday spoke to Secretary Anthony Fox, who called me on behalf of the President to say that the federal government is on board and will be responsive to all of our needs. Also, you can see behind us that we have been in communication with Homeland Security. We will have FEMA representatives on the ground. You see with us today the Coast Guard. You see with us the National Guard. You see with us the Corps of Engineers as well. So there is no light between us and the federal government. The furlough and the concerns in Washington right now are going to have no impact on our ability to put a total complement of federal, state, and local officials on the ground to protect the citizens of New Orleans and the citizens of the United States of America. We feel really well prepared. We feel like that we have been through this many, many times before. I will say as a cautionary note, every one of these storms that we have had, certainly since Katrina, has been very different. Some of them are wind events, some of them are water events, some of them are categories higher, categories lower, and they don't always follow rhyme or reason, and they have their own personalities. So I would say to everybody, I think that we're going to be okay. I feel fairly comfortable, given what we're seeing out there, that this should be a blip on our radar screen. Having said that, everybody needs to pay attention and to be vigilant, because these things have minds of their own. All things being equal, if we're well prepared, if we're very thoughtful, if we use common courtesy and common sense, if we prepare, if we don't put our first responders in harm's way, as Captain Gauthier said, by being out in a place where you don't need to be and asking our first responders to do things that they should never have to do, we ought to be okay in terms of life and property and our physical safety. So I thank the citizens for listening and paying attention and leaning forward. And as I have said many, many times, our ability to respond well is completely related to everybody else's responsibility to take care of themselves and their neighbors, and that always works out better. So with that, I thank you all for your time and for your attention, and we will be happy to answer any questions. If they're specific about an agency, feel free to direct it to the person representing that agency, or I'll try to do the best I can to answer it. Yes?
For Mr. Rice with Entergy, you had said that you're doing your own modeling and taking a look at what you expect from this storm. Based on that, what do you currently expect for the number of outages? And again, can you elaborate on that 3 days you said it could take to fully assess and repair the system?
Right now, I can't give you a specific estimation of what we perceive to be the damages because we don't know the track as of yet. But what I can tell you is we at Entergy have our own storm models. We employ them during every storm. I can tell you based upon my experience, they're usually pretty accurate. They can estimate the number of poles we estimate to suffer damage, down wires, things of that nature. So it's a pretty thorough system, a very accurate system. And what I told you before was where we were, it takes us about 3 days after storm to fully assess the damage. However, while we are assessing that damage, we are working to restore power. We have a system that we employ to do that, starting first with our generation stations, from there, our transmission operations, from there, our distribution operations, and then into the neighborhoods. So, again, while we're assessing damage, we are still working.
Thank you, Charles. The Saints game on Sunday, and if the current track holds and the damage is minimal, and power outages may be the biggest issue, people just want to know whether they're going to be able to watch the game.
If the current track holds, the Saints are going to beat the Bears.
Yeah, and we will work to make sure everyone can watch TV.
I think. I like to make that prediction. Yes.
Last year during the Isaac Declaration, we saw emergency and overtime pay for top city officials reach into the hundreds of thousands. The Civil Service Commission has not changed that rule since Isaac, and I'm just wondering, are we going to see the same sort of emergency and overtime pay for
The answer is no, that you will not see that overtime pay. Notwithstanding the fact that they haven't passed it, we will operate under what the new guidelines that we propose to them.
what are those guidelines?
Andy, you want to take that? They're significantly different.
Let me see. First, at this point in time, the Civil Service Commission rules we would not anticipate them being activated in any way. It requires both a declaration of an emergency, which the mayor indicated he will make, but also a closure of City Hall. Based on the track of this storm, City Hall remains open today, and we have every reason to anticipate it will be open on Monday. And so therefore, none of those rules would be triggered, and we don't anticipate that. That being said, we would propose, should something change, which we don't expect, to operate under the rules we proposed, which is no emergency pay for highly compensated professionals, and if there's overtime awarded, it would be at the regular time rate. And so that would be substantially different from the way that the rules were implemented in the past. And your estimate of the expenditures of that were
Extraordinarily high and wrong.
correct.
That's nothing new. All right. Go ahead. Yes.
Yeah, there's a comment on residents just being ready. A lot of stores across the city ran out of water last night. Some residents say they're actually going to hit the road or some North Mississippi sections. Does that make you feel a bit better about people actually heeding some of the warnings that you all get?
Well, first of all, all of this stuff is really difficult because you don't want to call it too soon and you don't want to call it too late. But at the end of the day, residents need to rely on their own good judgment and their goodwill and their relationships. You know, we're a really family-oriented city, so if you have friends that you want to visit, it's always a wonderful thing to do. But having said that, if you're not and you're going to be here, you really do have to prepare. And it just doesn't mean individuals, but it means companies as well, and certainly stores. Everybody's got to lean forward to make sure we have the kind of supplies that are necessary. Again, nothing beats having a plan. Nothing beats personal responsibility. And I'll say it again, our ability to act well and to wisely depends on your ability to be responsible for yourself and your family and allow us to do the things that emergencies require us to do. So again, you know, the people in this town know how to respond to catastrophic events better than anybody else in the country. And let's just use common sense. Be vigilant. Be wise. We think it's going to be okay. But if something changes, just be ready and make sure that you know exactly what you're going to do in the event that this thing turns bad. In the event that you're going to stay home, I think Mr. Rice told you there's always a chance that the electricity is going to go out. When that happens, you know what you're supposed to do, but you have to be prepared for it. So get some batteries for your flashlight, right? Get a couple extra tuna fish cans, maybe some peanut butter and jelly. You know the drill. Just really think about it. Don't blow it off, and then act accordingly. And help your neighbors, please, especially your elderly neighbors. That is really significant to us. If there is an emergency, call 911. If you have something you want to report that would cause us to get out there to help your neighbor, call 311. Thank you.